maybe this is what I'm doing in our internal guidance sessions. This is what I feel like I'm doing. I'm talking directly to your heart, and we're taking out the filter of your brain. So you're getting that direct information from your heart without the imposed filters, fears, anxieties of your brain. I mean, now we have scientific evidence that your heart thinks on its own. It has its own neurons. So it totally makes sense that we can talk directly to the quote unquote thoughts of your heart. Welcome to Alignment Adventures. This is a podcast where we explore what it means to live a fulfilling, aligning, and present life. I'm your host, Lindsay Tanner, and I am so grateful that you are here. Hello, my loves. I hope you all are doing so well. This week, I'm doing something just a little bit different, and that is I'm bringing you an episode that I recorded almost 2 years ago. It was March 28th, 2022. So this was back when I was like maybe halfway through my pregnancy with Arlo, which is just funny to think about. But anyways, this was one of the first episodes I did where we talked about the connection between spirituality and science. And I've been having so much fun. It's brought me so much alignment to dive into these topics. We've had quite a few episodes already talking about the true nature of reality, how spirituality and science are connected. We talked about quantum entanglement and brain states, so I will link those episodes if you haven't checked them out yet, or you can go and scroll back. They've been in the last few months or so, but I wanted to bring this one back, not only since it was the first one that I did, it also perfectly connects with the theme of today. If you're listening in real time, I'm re-releasing this episode on Valentine's Day. So this episode is all about heart-brain coherence and how our heart is so much more powerful than we think it is. Now, I'm not going to get into any of the details. That is what the episode is for. I talk about why I love diving into science again, give you my background. So some of that is a repeat, and I apologize for that. But I also want to let you know, I feel this nudge gently coming in, and I felt it for a while, where I'm going to just kind of slow down with the podcast. Definitely not stop, because this is my joy. This is my passion. That's my intention this year, is to follow what feels fun and follow my passions without expectations. But maintaining an episode a week with my current schedule, fully taking care of Arlo on my own, and teaching some yoga classes here and there, which has been so fun for me. It's just been a little bit more trickier to maintain, and I never want to force these episodes. I want to bring them to you when I feel most aligned, when they feel right to bring them to you. So if you notice the pace starting to slow down, just know that's something that might be happening. I'm not even going to say like we're going to do Wednesdays from here on out, or 3 times a month or 2 times a month, because I truly don't know. And I'm just going to be open to what flows in my life. But I may be incorporating some more flashback episodes like this, where I come on and reintroduce it and then play an episode from the past, because I have 160 episodes, which is crazy. I remember that was one of my fears going into this, was that I was going to run out of things to talk about. Definitely haven't run out of things to talk about. I feel like my limiting factor now is just time and energy, which I know is partially a mind story, partially just a fact of this season of life, and that's okay. I'm flowing with life. I'm letting life flow through me. So that is why I may bring in some old episodes and just kind of remix them a little bit for you, or bring them back in to re-listen. You guys know that I go back and re-listen to episodes all the time, and it brings me so much alignment. So with that, let's get into heartbreak coherence. I think this is going to blow your mind and really get you in tune with your heart. The heart is so powerful. It does so much more than we were taught in school, way more than just pumping blood throughout our body. And another thing I really like about this episode is it gives you a really simple and effective practice to get you back into alignment and to bring you into a high vibration state so you can show up as your best self. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and get into the episode. You're even going to hear my old intro, so I hope you guys love this episode just as much as the last time you listened to it, or even more. Welcome to Alignment Adventures, a podcast where we explore what it means to live a fulfilling, aligning, and present life. I'm your host, Lindsay Tanner, and I'm so dang glad you're here. Hello, my loves, and welcome back to another episode of Alignment Adventures. Today, I'm coming to you to talk about something a little bit different. It definitely completely relates to everything we've discussed on here. But today, I want to get a little bit more sciencey with some of the stuff we've talked about on here. As you guys know, I got my degree in science education. I was a science teacher for 5 years, and now I help create and implement science curriculum, kind of more from the business side. So I've been in the science field for like over a decade. It's hard to believe. And I absolutely love and highly value science, which is interesting because a lot of this stuff on here may seem like it's the opposite of science. But something I'm bringing to you today really connects the things that we talk about to scientific research. And I'm not going to get too much into like the research and the numbers, but I'm going to tell you where I found all this information so you can look into it if you're interested. I think this just helps our brains and our minds accept that what we're talking about on here has true validity. Jess Lively says this a lot, but science kind of gives us that permission slip to like truly believe something, which you may believe a lot of this stuff already. Hopefully you do, or you probably wouldn't be listening. But this is just going to help you strengthen that belief in some of the stuff we talk about on here. So before I get into what I want to discuss, let's just like talk about science for a second. Like take yourself back to science class if you need to. That may be a bad memory for you, so maybe don't do that. But science itself, the discipline, why I love it so much is it is always changing. What we know about our natural world is constantly changing as technology advances, as we look into more things, as we raise our awareness. We're able to gather evidence to support different theories. Like you can even look at like DNA. That's a recent discovery in the last like 80 years, right? Like we are constantly discovering new things. With that being said, I just want to shed light on that things do change. And I see sometimes that people really hold on to the old ways. So that's a big thing with science as well, is just being open, being curious. You have to be open and curious to new ideas. Otherwise, we're never going to accept new things that we find, which may be a better explanation than we had before. So I just want to say that caveat in the beginning. As always, with all these things we talk about, be open, be curious, but always take what resonates with you. Okay, so today I want to talk about heart-brain coherence. You might be like, what is Lindsay talking about? Or maybe you've heard about it before, but one of the shows I've been watching, which is on Gaia, you've heard me talk about Gaia before, this scientist has been talking a lot about heart-brain coherence. And I thought it would be so cool to share it on here because it gives scientific evidence to the intuition stuff that we've been diving into so deeply. So the first thing I want to say with heart-brain coherence is we know the importance we put on our brain, right? Like there are so many studies around the different parts of our brain, how neurons interact, how we send messages from our brain to the rest of our body. We know that the brain controls our body. Our brain is super important. Obviously, we can all agree on that in the scientific community. What's so interesting and why I want to bring this to you is I feel like this is not talked about enough in the mainstream news, is that in 1991, so this was like 30 years ago that they discovered this, our heart has over 40,000 neurons. So it's like a mini brain. It acts like a brain as well. Like, how many of you think of the heart as just like the pumping mechanism that pumps blood through our body and helps reoxygenate our blood to deliver oxygen to different parts of our body, right? That's what I thought our heart did for a majority of our life, or the only thing it did. And obviously, that's one of its major functions, but it also has a huge neural network. And what's interesting about this is that our heart sends almost more information to our brain than the other way around. So I'm going to say that again. Research shows that our heart sends more information to our brain, which I thought it was the other way around. Like, I thought our brain controlled everything and it was sending signals out to our body majorly. And then, of course, signals come back. Like when you touch something hot, that sends this signal back to your brain that it's hot, right? But our heart is sending so much information to our brain. It is like a mini brain. Now, what makes this so interesting to me is a lot of the work that I do with intuition and internal guidance talks about like placing your awareness in your body rather than your mind. And this scientifically proves that we can think with other parts of our body instead of just our mind. Like, that just blows my mind that we have scientific evidence backing this up. So that's the first thing I want to point out, is that our heart is like a mini brain. Now, the second thing I want to talk about is, now that we know that our heart is sending so much information to our brain, the way that our brain interprets that message is what determines like the quality of our emotional state. And as we know, our brain filters what it receives through past experiences, through our patterns. It brings in the fears, the doubts, the anxieties. Our heart doesn't have that filter that our brain does. So our heart is like concise, wise, peaceful, loving thoughts. And then our brain kind of like filters that based on what we've experienced in our life. And it can bring in those past patterns, those past experiences that are limiting us, which we've talked about many times on here. And I just want to hypothesize, maybe this is what I'm doing in our internal guidance sessions. This is what I feel like I'm doing. I'm talking directly to your heart, and we're taking out the filter of your brain. So you're getting that direct information from your heart without the imposed filters, fears, anxieties of your brain. I mean, now we have scientific evidence that your heart thinks on its own. It has its own neurons. So it totally makes sense that we can talk directly to the quote unquote thoughts of your heart. So I just want to put that in here really quickly. Okay, so now that I've given you some basic information that you may or may not have already known about your brain and your heart, the stuff about the heart blew my mind. I did not know that our heart was like a mini brain. Now let's talk about heart-brain coherence. And I just want to say at the top of this, if you're interested, I got all this information from the Heart Math Institute. It's a nonprofit organization that was formed in 1990. And their whole mission is doing all this research about the heart to really help us determine how that affects like our emotional stability, our emotional resilience, how we can like use this information to reduce stress and anxiety, which is a lot of the stuff we're all about over here. So if you're interested, I'm going to link all of this in the show notes. Go to the Heart Math Institute. They have a ton of free resources. I'm even taking one of their free courses on heart-brain coherence because it's fun for me to learn that stuff. It mixes the woo and the science, which is like total alignment time for me. May not be your cup of tea, but if it is, it's a free resource. Go check it out. So let's talk about heart-brain coherence. So research shows that when we have perceived negative emotions like fear, anxiety, anger, aggravated, whatever it may be, the waves of our heart and the waves of our brain, we can measure those, right, with like scientific tools, are incoherent. That means that it's like jagged. And if you were to look at it, like it's a wave that's just kind of all over the place. It's an incoherent pattern. But when we feel feelings of gratitude, love, connection, compassion, which we talked all about last week, so this really connects into last week's topic, we see heart-brain coherence. So this is a wave pattern that is very even, very coherent. And what comes along with this, the research shows, is greater clarity of the mind. So when we're in heart-brain coherence, basically feeling these high vibration emotions, our brain functions better. And in relation to that, because of that, our body is able to release the hormones it needs to help immune support. It can even help with anti-aging. It can heal your body. A lot of times when we're stuck in the perceived negative states, our body is in fight or flight. So it's giving all the energy to whatever the perceived danger is, which a lot of time the perceived danger is really just like an angry email from your boss or a fight with your significant other. Like, it's really not a life or death situation, but our bodies are wired to perceive it as life or death. So it devotes all its energy towards that thing, and your body doesn't spend as much time healing or using its autoimmune responses or going into anti-aging processes. Another big part of this too is when you're in heart-brain coherence. So when those waves are nice and even, I wish I could show you the pictures. If you go to their website, you'll see it, the difference between the two. So again, when we're in the negative state, it's like this jagged, up and down, very incoherent pattern. But when we're in heart-brain coherence, which we'll talk about how to get into that, basically it's feeling the feelings of love, compassion, connection, gratitude. Our brain is functioning at its optimal state. So I hope you guys are still with me. I know this is a lot of science stuff. Again, I'm not going to get too much into the data because they have all of it on their website, the Heart Math Institute. But how cool that something that seems so simple, it is scientifically proven that this can drastically change the state of our being and drastically change the quality of the functioning of our brain and how we can interpret things. And another really important thing I want to talk about here is when you're in heart-brain coherence, you're able to connect with your intuition. This is scientifically proven. Like, that just makes me so happy that science is going there. Science is able to prove that we do have that connection with our intuition and show ways that we can do it more effectively. So when you're in heart-brain coherence, when you have those nice, even coherent brain and heart waves, you're able to form a deeper connection with your intuition. So another really cool fact that I just wanted to bring up, because it supports another thing that we talk about on here, how we're all connected, is that scientists are able to measure the frequency of our heart and our brain at different states of emotions. And when we're in heart-brain coherence, I believe it's 0.1 hertz, which may or may not be important to you. But then they were able to measure it at other times when we're feeling different emotions. What's interesting is that the Heart Math Institute has set up these sensors around the world to basically measure the vibration of the planet according to the magnetic fields. Again, we're getting sciencey, but stay with me. All in all, without going too much into it, they were able to show that the frequency of our heart and brain matches the frequency of the earth. I just think that is so cool. Again, showing how we're all connected, how we're all influencing each other. And another thing they're able to prove scientifically is that when you're in heart-brain coherence, so when you're in, I want to say, total alignment, right? Because you're getting alignment of your heart, your brain, your emotions, everything's synced up in heart-brain coherence. You're able to positively affect the heart-brain coherence of those around you. Now, we talked about that before. We know that we can feel other people's vibes around us, their emotions. Like, everyone's felt that before when you've walked into a room and it has a really good or really negative energy. This is proving how this is happening. And if you think about it, we basically are creating our own little magnetic fields, right? What is our heart doing? It's pumping blood. What does blood have in it? Iron. So it's creating our own little magnetic field, just like the earth has a magnetic field for each one of us. And the really cool part is you get to influence what you're putting in your field. Are you putting really high vibrations out there? Are you putting really low vibrations out there? Which we've talked about, working through the low vibration. That's going to happen. But this heart-brain coherence helps you be more resilient to when negative things happen. You're able to truly feel it and then get back into heart-brain coherence. Okay, so let's get into the good stuff. How do we get into heart-brain coherence? Lindsay keeps talking about it. Guys, it is so simple and so similar to so many of the other strategies we talk about out here. But I'm going to talk about one that is specific to the Heart Math Institute. So I want to give all credit to them. Okay, so go look at their website. They have so much stuff on there. But they talk about heart-focused breathing. And this is super simple, and it's only 3 steps. So, of course, you're going to focus on your breathing, which how many times have I talked about breathing and how simple and how underrated it is. So you're just going to find a quiet space. You could do this right now with me if you wanted to, if you have the time and space to do it. You're just going to take some nice, deep breaths. And what I think is really useful is putting your hand on your heart, or you can even put like little prayer hands up, like having your hand close to your heart in some way, which kind of mirrors what we see in a lot of religions, right? Which I find so interesting. And then you're just going to cultivate those feelings of heart-brain coherence, which could be compassion, it could be gratitude, it could be love, it could be connection, any of those high vibration feelings. Even go back to a time if you need to, like go back to that time and space in your mind where you felt those feelings, if that really helps you, and fully feel them. And then the last step is truly like radiating those feelings outside of you. So just imagine, I think I've talked about this before, once you felt that feeling and you literally feel it in your heart. That's how I feel it. Like when I feel love, I can feel my heart, like just the energy there, and it's starting to open. You're going to imagine just like radiating that feeling throughout your entire body and past your body, because it is scientifically proven that we generate a field outside of us. So imagine you projecting those feelings that you're cultivating outside of you. Now you want to do that for like a few minutes. It really doesn't take long, and that's going to help you get in heart-brain coherence. So once you're there, you're not only helping yourself by letting your body start to heal, it's going to go into the proper immune responses that it needs to. It's going to do the anti-stress stuff to help you deal with stress, to help you deal with all those things that we have in our life. Like we can't avoid the stress, right? That's just a part of our society at this day and time. This is going to help your body use those built-in mechanisms to deal and heal from the stress, as well as kicking in those anti-aging mechanisms, which I don't know about you, but I'm all about over here. I know that's my ego saying that, but it is what it is, right? And then you're also influencing people around you. So do this not only for you, but for the collective, for your family, for those that you are around. You get to choose what you put in your field. All right, my loves, that is all I have for you this week. Hopefully you found this enjoyable. I know it's a little bit different than usual. We're getting a little bit more sciencey, but please check this out if you're interested. There are so many studies that support this, not only from the Heart Math Institute, but from other organizations out there as well. Just Google heart-brain coherence or check out any of the links that I will link in the show notes. And I encourage you, do your own research if it feels aligning to you. So your homework actionables for this week, if it feels right, is to practice that heart-brain coherence. That is something you can do so easily, so quickly, right before you go into work, right when you wake up in the morning, right before you go to bed, right before your kids wake up, whenever you feel like you need it, to help you get in that optimal brain state so you can take on your day as the most aligned you. Heart-brain coherence is basically getting into alignment from a scientific perspective. That just makes me so freaking happy to bring this to you guys. And I love that science is truly backing up all the things that we talk about on here. And of course, it helps you connect with your intuition. That's what I help people do in my internal guidance sessions, is we're breathing and they're placing their awareness in their body, probably around their heart, sometimes around their gut too, which there are things going on in our gut as well, which that is a whole nother podcast. We'll focus on the heart today, but how cool that our heart does so much more than we may have initially thought that it did. So just show some appreciation and gratitude for your heart right now. All right, my loves, that is all I have for you this week. Please share any takeaways you have with me on Instagram. Please reach out if you have any questions at Lindsay with an A.M. Tanner. Please share this episode with anyone that you think would find it interesting, especially your sciencey friends. I bet they would find this so interesting if they, have trouble getting on board with some of the stuff that we've talked about. If it feels aligning to you, please rate and review the podcast. I love seeing your feedback through iTunes and through Spotify. So I appreciate all of you that have done that so far. And thank you so much for taking the time to do that to help the podcast grow and reach the people it needs to reach. And yeah, I'm just so grateful for all of you. I'm sending so much love to all of you, and I will see you next week on Alignment Adventures.